In the United States, many domestic workers and caregivers are part of the sandwich generation. How does having to care for their children and elderly parents, in addition to dedicating so many hours to their work, impact them?
It's true that many domestic workers and caregivers are also part of the sandwich generation, squeezed between the pressures of caring for aging loved ones and young children at the same time. And there's a lot of pressure there because when your work is to show up and care for another family, and that often requires a lot of flexibility. And domestic workers don't often have a clear sense of work hours or a clear work agreement. So there's an expectation that they will be flexible. So they have none of that flexibility for the care of their own children or their aging parents. It just means that there's a huge amount of pressure and also not a lot of support because of the low wages and the inability to afford backup care or other forms of care to support their own family's needs. And so I would say that the lack of a safety net to begin with for domestic workers and caregivers disproportionately affects domestic workers and caregivers because they are the safety net for so many others. And that actually means that they can't be flexible and show up oftentimes when their own families need it.
What kinds of policies and investment are needed to ensure both decent work for caregivers and the right to receive care?
What's essential in ensuring that caregivers have the right to receive care themselves is building the kind of infrastructure that accounts for the nature of all different kinds of work, including care work. Care workers oftentimes have to arrive before the parents or the family caregivers that they support have to leave in order to get to work on time, which means an hour, 2 hours ahead of when everybody else works. So there's just a different kind of schedule, a different kind of flexibility, which requires a different kind of infrastructure for care and set of policies that support care to ensure that caregivers and care workers themselves can actually benefit from those systems. They are essential to those systems. They can't be an afterthought because they're actually the backbone of those systems. Nobody else can have access to childcare or to direct care or home care if those workers themselves don't have access to care. So when we design policies like universal childcare or paid family and medical leave or long-term care benefits, we need to design them with the care workers' ability to access those programs in mind. And when we do that, we can ensure that there is a solid foundation underneath our caregiving systems.
What has the NDWA been doing to improve working and living conditions for domestic and care workers?
At the National Domestic Workers Alliance, we have really focused on building the power of domestic workers. From the time that we were founded, we realized that as long as domestic workers were isolated and disaggregated and excluded, it would be impossible to end the exploitation that so many workers are vulnerable to and to put these jobs on a pathway to the respect and recognition that they deserve. And the wages and working conditions and benefits that they deserve. And so our strategy right now is twofold. In addition, the organizing is building the power to change policy, and our policy change is happening on two fronts. One is to establish minimum protections and end the exclusion of domestic workers in our nation's labor laws. And we're doing that from the city level to the state level to the federal level in the United States Congress through passing what we call domestic workers' bills of rights. And then the second thing we're trying to do is we're trying to build a movement in the United States to invest in the care economy, to invest in access to affordable quality childcare, to invest in paid family and medical leave, to invest in affordable aging and disability care for seniors and people with disabilities, and to invest in the jobs in the care economy becoming family sustaining wage earning jobs that have the right to join a union, because unions have historically been one of the main ways that workers in the care economy have been able to improve the conditions of their work and their wages and benefits. So we are also trying to enhance the role of public systems, infrastructure building, and policy, and invest in those programs so that more people in our country can afford care and more of the workers who work in the care economy can earn a living wage with real economic mobility and opportunity.